An OW at this winter night I will told you a very old story when was the elves live in the middle forest.
Once upon a time, the forest was a place of magic and mystery, where the trees stood tall and proud, and the creatures that called it home lived in harmony with nature. The elves who lived deep in the heart of the forest knew it better than anyone else, for they had spent their lives surrounded by its beauty. The trees were majestic, their trunks thick and sturdy, their branches reaching up toward the sky. The leaves rustled in the wind, creating a symphony of sound that filled the air. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor, creating a tranquil and serene atmosphere. The forest was teeming with life, from the smallest insects to the largest animals. The elves lived in harmony with the creatures of the forest, tending to the plants and animals that they cared for. The flowers that bloomed in the forest were breathtaking, their brilliant colours a testament to the natural beauty of the land. As the seasons changed, the forest transformed, each new season bringing its own unique beauty. In the spring, the forest was awash with vibrant colours as the flowers bloomed and the trees burst into leaf. In the summer, the forest was alive with the sounds of birds and animals, their calls echoing through the trees. In the fall, the forest was a symphony of colours, the leaves turning brilliant shades of orange, red and gold, creating a breathtaking tapestry of colour.
And in the winter, the forest was blanketed in a layer of snow, transforming it into a sparkling wonderland.
The elves took great pride in the beauty of their home. They tended to the plants and animals with great care, ensuring that the delicate balance of the forest was maintained. Their homes were built in harmony with nature, using materials that blended seamlessly with the surrounding trees and foliage. But despite the forest's beauty, the elves knew that there was something sinister lurking in the shadows, something that threatened to destroy everything they held dear. As the days grew shorter and the nights grew longer, they began to feel a sense of unease. They could sense that something was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Something that the elves who lived deep in the heart of the forest feared above all else. The elves were a peaceful people, living in harmony with the land and the animals that inhabited it. They were known for their beauty, their grace, and their magical abilities. But they knew that the forest held secrets that were best left undiscovered. Despite their fears, the elves continued to live their lives, as they always had, tending to the plants and animals that they cared for. But as the days grew shorter and the nights grew longer, they began to feel a sense of unease. They could sense that something was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. One night, as the moon rose high in the sky, the elves heard a strange sound echoing through the forest. It was a sound unlike anything they had ever heard before, a deep guttural growl that sent shivers down their spines. They gathered together, fear etched on their faces, and whispered about what might be lurking in the shadows. Some said it was a demon, summoned by the dark magic of the forest. Others whispered that it was the vengeful spirit of an ancient elf, seeking revenge for some long-forgotten wrong. The elves tried to ignore the sounds and the whispers, hoping that it was just their imaginations playing tricks on them.
But as the days turned into weeks, the forest began to change.
The trees twisted and turned, taking on grotesque shapes that seemed to reach for the sky.
The animals that once roamed freely through the forest now hid in fear, too scared to come out.
And in the dead of night, the screams of the demon could be heard echoing through the trees. Despite their fear, the elves knew they had to confront the darkness that had taken hold of their home. They banded together, forming a group of brave warriors who were willing to risk everything to save their forest. They trained in secret, honing their skills and preparing for the day when they would face their enemies. But as they prepared for battle, the elves couldn't help but wonder what had caused the darkness to consume their once peaceful home, and what horrors awaited them in the depths of the forest. Certainly, here is Chapter 2 of the updated horror story, Chapter 2, The Elf Queen.
The elf queen was the ruler of the forest, and her beauty was legendary.
Her long hair was the colour of autumn leaves, and her eyes shone like diamonds in the sunlight. She was a wise and just ruler, beloved by her people and respected by all who knew her. But beneath her beauty there was a darkness that few dared to speak of. The elf queen had always been fascinated by the dark arts, and she had spent many years studying the ancient tomes that contained the secrets of magic and sorcery. It was said that she had made a deal with a demon, trading her soul for eternal youth and power. Many of the elves whispered that the elf queen's beauty and power came at a terrible price, and that she was not to be trusted. Despite the rumours, the elf queen continued to rule over the forest with an iron fist. She demanded loyalty and obedience from her subjects, and those who dared to defy her were met with swift and brutal punishment. The once peaceful forest had become a place of fear and terror. As the darkness in the forest grew, the elf queen became more and more obsessed with power. She spent long hours in her study, poring over ancient tomes and experimenting with dark magic. Her once beautiful palace had become a dark and foreboding fortress, guarded by fierce warriors who were loyal to her alone. The elves who had once adored the elf queen began to fear her, and many whispered that she had become corrupted by the very magic she had once sought to master. They knew that something had changed in her, and that the forest was suffering because of it. Despite her growing power and influence, the elf queen remained aloof and distant, rarely seen outside of her palace. As the darkness in the forest grew, the elves began to wonder if the rumours were true, and if the elf queen had indeed made a deal with a demon. But one night, a group of brave elves decided to investigate the palace and uncover the truth.
They crept through the forest, using their knowledge of the land to avoid detection.
As they approached the palace, they could feel the darkness emanating from within. They slipped inside the palace walls, moving silently through the empty halls. As they approached the elf queen's chambers, they could hear the sound of chanting coming from within. They peered through a crack in the door and saw the elf queen standing at the center of a circle of dark magic, surrounded by strange symbols and ancient artifacts. The group of elves watched in horror as the elf queen completed the ritual, her body writhing in ecstasy as the dark magic flowed through her veins. They knew that they had to act quickly before it was too late. They burst into the room, their weapons at the ready. The elf queen turned to face them, her eyes blazing with fury. The room was filled with a cloud of thick black smoke, and the air crackled with dark magic. The group of elves fought bravely, but they were no match for the elf queen's power. She seemed to draw strength from the dark magic, her attacks growing more and more powerful with each passing moment. As the battle raged on, one of the elves managed to get close enough to the elf queen to strike a powerful blow. The elf queen screamed in pain, and the black smoke cleared, revealing the true horror of what she had become. Her once beautiful face was twisted and contorted, her eyes glowing with a malevolent light. Her body was covered in dark, leathery skin, and her fingers were long and claw-like.
The elf who'd struck her down recoiled in horror, realizing too late the true extent of the elf queen's corruption.
The elf queen let out a terrible scream, summoning forth a horde of dark creatures that swarmed into the room. The elves fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. In the end, only a handful of the elves managed to escape the palace alive. They fled into the forest, their hearts heavy with grief and fear for what the future might hold. The elf queen's reign of terror had only just begun, and the darkness in the forest had grown even stronger. Certainly, here is Chapter 3 of the updated horror story. Chapter 3, The Summoning. The demon was summoned by a group of foolish elves who sought to gain power and knowledge beyond their understanding. They had no idea what they were dealing with, and soon the demon was free to roam the forest, wreaking havoc and destruction wherever it went. The elf queen was pleased with the demon's arrival. for she saw it as an opportunity to expand her own power and control over the forest. She made a deal with the demon, promising to help it find a way to break free of the forest and enter the human world in exchange for its loyalty and obedience. The demon was a creature of pure evil, with a hunger for destruction and chaos. It revelled in the fear and pain of the creatures it encountered, and it took pleasure in twisting and corrupting everything it touched. As the days passed, the forest began to change. The trees twisted and turned, taking on grotesque shapes that seemed to reach for the sky.
The animals that once roamed freely through the forest now hid in fear, too scared to come out. And in the dead of night, the screams of the demon could be heard echoing through the trees. The Elf Queen watched with satisfaction as the demon spread fear and terror throughout the forest.
She saw it as a means to an end, a way to expand her own power and control over the land. But she soon realized that the demon was not to be controlled so easily.
As the demon's power grew, it became more and more difficult to contain.
It began to slip out of the Elf Queen's control, wreaking havoc and destruction wherever it went. The forest was consumed by darkness, and the elves who had once lived in peace were now living in fear. The Elf Queen began to fear the demon, realizing too late the true extent of its power. She knew that she had made a terrible mistake in summoning it, and that she had put the entire forest in danger. But it was too late to turn back now. The demon had tasted the power of the mortal world, and it hungered for more. It began to plot its escape, seeking a way to break free of the forest and enter the human world. The Elf Queen tried to resist the demon's influence, but it was too strong. She found herself drawn deeper and deeper into its dark embrace, her mind clouded by its twisted whispers. As the days turned into weeks, the forest became a place of fear and terror. The demon and the Elf Queen had become unstoppable, their power growing with each passing moment. It seemed as though nothing could stop them. But deep in the heart of the forest, a group of brave elves banded together, determined to put an end to the madness that had taken hold of their home. They knew they were no match for the demon or the Elf Queen, but they were willing to risk everything to save their home and their people. They trained in secret, honing their skills and preparing for the day when they would face the demon and the Elf Queen. They knew that it would be a battle for the ages and that their chances of success were slim. But they refused to give up. They knew that the forest was worth fighting for and that the lives of their people were at stake. As the day of the final battle approached, the forest seemed to grow even darker. The trees twisted and turned, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The animals had fled, leaving the forest eerily silent. The group of elves gathered together, their weapons at the ready. They knew that they were facing insurmountable odds, but they refused to give up. They would fight until their last breath if that was what it took to save their home. The demon and the Elf Queen emerged from the shadows, their power palpable. The demon was a towering figure, its skin black as night, and its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The Elf Queen was a vision of beauty and terror, her once beautiful face twisted and contorted by the dark magic that flowed through her veins. The battle was fierce and brutal, with the demon and the Elf Queen unleashing their full power on the group of elves. The elves fought bravely, their determination unwavering, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a mysterious animal appeared on the battlefield. It was unlike anything the elves had ever seen before, a creature of pure light, with a shimmering coat and eyes that glowed like stars. The animal charged into the fray, its movements graceful and sure. It moved with lightning speed, striking the demon and the Elf Queen with a ferocity that took them by surprise. The elves watched in amazement as the mysterious animal fought alongside them, its power seemingly limitless. It seemed to know exactly where to strike, its attacks perfectly timed and executed. With the help of the mysterious animal, the elves were able to gain the upper hand in the battle. They fought with renewed vigor, their spirits lifted by the creature's presence. In the end, it was the mysterious animal that dealt the final blow to the demon, sending it back to the depths of hell from which it had come. The elf queen's power was broken, and she fell to the ground, her body racked with pain. The elves gathered around the mysterious animal, amazed and grateful for its help. They thanked it for its bravery and asked what it was and why it had come to their aid. The animal looked at them with its bright, intelligent eyes and spoke in a voice that sounded like a gentle breeze. "I am a spirit of the forest," it said.
I have watched over this land for centuries, and I could not stand by and watch as it was consumed by darkness.
"I came to your aid because I knew that you were the only ones who could save it." The elves were stunned. They had heard stories of the spirits of the forest, but they had never seen one before. They thanked the mysterious animal for its help and promised to honor and protect the forest in its honor. From that day forward, the mysterious animal became a symbol of hope and bravery for the elves. They knew that they could never have won the battle without its help, and they vowed to always protect and cherish the forest that they called home. And though the mysterious animal was never seen again, its legacy lived on, inspiring the elves to fight for their home and protect it from all who sought to harm it. The elf queen's power was broken, and she fell to the ground, her body racked with pain. She looked up at the group of elves, her eyes filled with tears, and she realized the true cost of her actions. The forest was forever changed by the darkness that had taken hold of it. But the group of elves knew that they had saved their home, and that the future was brighter because of their bravery and determination. As they tended to their wounded and mourned their fallen comrades, the group of elves knew that they would never forget the horrors that had taken place in the forest. But they also knew that they would never stop fighting for the beauty and magic of the land they called home. Certainly, here is Chapter 4 of the updated horror story. Chapter 4, The Aftermath. The battle had been won, but the forest was forever changed. The trees were twisted and contorted, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The animals were gone, their homes destroyed by the demon's wrath. The once peaceful forest was now a place of fear and destruction. The group of elves who had fought bravely in the final battle were hailed as heroes. They had risked everything to save their home, and they had emerged victorious. But the victory was bittersweet, for they knew that the damage had already been done. As they tended to their wounded and mourned their fallen comrades, the group of elves realized that they had a long road ahead of them. They would have to work tirelessly to restore the beauty and magic of the forest, to undo the damage that had been done by the demon and the elf queen. They began by planting new trees, hoping to replace the ones that had been destroyed. They tended to the plants and animals that had survived the battle, working to help them rebuild their homes and their lives. And they worked tirelessly to repair the damage that had been done to their own homes and to the palace of the elf queen. But the darkness in the forest was not so easily dispelled. The trees remained twisted and contorted, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers.
The animals were slow to return, wary of the destruction that had taken place.
And the forest was still haunted by the memories of the demon and the elf queen. Despite the challenges, the group of elves persevered.
They worked tirelessly day after day to restore the beauty and magic of the forest. They refused to give up, knowing that their home was worth fighting for.
As time passed, the forest began to heal. The trees straightened and grew tall once more, their branches reaching up toward the sky. The animals returned, their homes rebuilt, and their lives renewed. And the beauty of the forest began to re-emerge, slowly but surely. The group of elves who had fought in the final battle continued to work tirelessly to restore their home. They knew that the damage had been done, but they refused to let the darkness win. They worked day and night, using their knowledge of the land and their love for their home to help it heal.
And slowly but surely, the forest began to return to its former glory.
The beauty and magic that had once been so prevalent began to re-emerge, and the memories of the demon and the elf queen began to fade. But the group of elves knew that they could never forget what had happened. They knew that the darkness in the forest would always be a part of its history, a reminder of the horrors that had taken place. But they also knew that they had saved their home, and that the future was brighter because of their bravery and determination. As the years passed, the forest continued to heal and thrive. The trees grew tall and strong, their branches swaying in the gentle breeze.
The animals returned in greater numbers, their homes rebuilt and their lives renewed.
The group of elves who had fought in the final battle had become legends in the forest, their bravery and determination remembered for generations to come.
They had succeeded in saving their home, and their legacy would live on forever.
The elf queen had disappeared after the battle, her fate unknown. Some said that she had fled into the forest, never to be seen again. Others whispered that she had been consumed by the darkness that had taken hold of her and that she had perished along with the demon. But despite the uncertainty surrounding the elf queen's fate, the group of elves knew that they had succeeded in defeating the darkness that had taken hold of their home. They knew that the forest was safe once more, and that the beauty and magic that had once been so prevalent had returned. As they looked out over the forest, the group of elves knew that their work was not done. They would continue to tend to the plants and animals to protect their home from those who would seek to harm it. They knew that the darkness would always be a part of their history, but they also knew that the beauty and magic of the forest would endure. And so they continued to live their lives in harmony with nature, cherishing the beauty and magic of their home and working tirelessly to protect it. For they knew that the forest was more than just a collection of trees and animals. It was a living, breathing entity, full of wonder and mystery. And so it was that the forest remained a place of magic and beauty, a testament to the bravery and determination